We're watching films on the toilet, because that's what dads have to do. When the movie's unsuitable for your kids, then pretend you need a number two. If you need a break from your family or spouse, there's a lavatorial picture house. Watch Terminator 2 while you're sitting on the loo. Enjoy the whole of Rambo 4 with your trousers on the floor. We're watching films on the toilet. How about you?
No one ever does a conga and it's like, oh, I wish I wasn't in this. You're either 100% in or 100% out of a conga.
There's no halfway with the conga line.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which you had printed up on a business card, didn't you?
Yeah, I opened a jelly deal shop, and my slogan was, there's no halfway with the conga line. But
which is clever, isn't it? Because congas are also eels.
That's right, but no one came.
But that was mainly because the food was poisonous, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was awful.
You're basically asking anyone at the docks if they had an eel, and just taking them on their word if they produced like a random piece of meat. And it very rarely was an eel, was it?
No, if we were lucky, it was beef.
It was mainly rat meat, wasn't it, that you served in your restaurant?
Jellied rat, jellied cat, and jellied ox, and mash.
The mash was absolutely delicious. And Jay Rayner actually said in his review, this appalling meal is saved only by this sublime mash.
Welcome to Santa Carla, the murder capital of the world. This place is swarming with blood-sucking vampires. In the daytime, they stay out of sight. But when the sun goes down, well, you better watch your neck, buddy. Because the Prince of Darkness is looking to drain your blood. You think you're safe, walking down the street, sleeping in your bed, taking a dump in your bathroom? Think again, my friend. Those undead freaks will jump right out of the bowl, bite your head off, flush it down the toilet.
Come on, Michael. Be one of us. Sit on the toilet, Michael.
Hello there.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Watching Films on the Toilet, our podcast.
I'm Eamonn.
And I'm Ben.
Sexy Ben is his new name.
Oh, don't. You're making me blush.
He's had a horrible cold this week.
Yeah.
As you can tell by his sexy new voice.
I've developed a husk.
Yeah.
And not with my voice, like on my back.
What is a husk?
It's like a corn cob has a husk. I now have a husk.
Do you?
Like a cocoon.
Like a cocoon that you've grown out of?
Yeah. The Ben you knew was a mere caterpillar.
Yeah.
And over the coming weeks, out shall come a butterfly.
Wowee.
Yep.
Maybe we should change the podcast to this biological phenomena.
My friend became a butterfly.
My friend turns into a butterfly, I think, is a more captivating podcast than two middle-aged men talking about films like all the other middle-aged men.
Yeah, if I'd known that I was going to transform into a butterfly, say 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have said it then, but I didn't know. So I guess we just have to keep going.
So Ben, what the ruddy hell is this podcast all about?
So as two middle-aged men with young families and certain responsibilities, we have very little time to watch the films that we want to watch. So we sit on the toilet and watch them. And now we're going to talk about one of the films that we watched on the loo this week. Oh, my wife doesn't like the word loo. On the toilet this week.
Why doesn't she like the word loo?
It's just quite annoying, isn't it?
What does she think about box?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out, won't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching films on the box.
Yeah. Again, if you'd said that to me 2 or 3 weeks ago, we could have gone with that, but we've stuck to a title now, haven't we?
Damn.
Ah, missed a trick. So this week, we're going to be talking about the 1987 horror classic, The Lost Boys.
But before we dive into that, it's time for toilet news. So, toilet news this week. Police are investigating an anti-Brexit prank which saw road signs across the county change to describe Kent as the toilet of England. Should be Garden of England, I think. Oh. Nearly 30 were altered by the EU flag mafia on Thursday night in what they described as a military operation.
Wow.
Using stuck-on pieces of paper.
I think they're over-egging their efforts slightly by describing that as a military operation.
I agree. Is Kent really the toilet of England? I can think of several counties off the top of my head who are better toilets of England than Kent.
Okay, what is the toilet of England?
Cornwall, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. Plymouth.
Oh, hey now. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
All right. Plymouth used to be the toilet of England. I think we can both agree on that. That's why we haven't lived there for a while. But now, it's the B-day of southwest England?
It's certainly composting toilet now, isn't it?
Yeah. So, hang on. Toilet of Kent. They didn't do a dirty protest by each sign, did they?
The article doesn't mention that.
Now, that would have been a military operation.
Yeah, and if you're calling from Plymouth, sorry for what Ben said. I, for the record, think it's beautiful. And if you're listening from Cornwall, then go yourself. I don't care what you think. Okay, so this is an interesting one. A school board trustee known for railing against LGBT inclusive education broadcast herself using the toilet to 140 attendees of a Zoom meeting. Frances Kojelja could be seen sat on the John, that's the Metro's writing, not mine, while relieving herself during the Hackensack Board of Education's virtual meeting on Monday night.
Okay.
She's now resigned from her position.
Okay.
But it's weird that she felt totally cool being really anti-LGBT, which is obviously incredibly controversial and bad. But she did something like go to the toilet, show herself on the toilet by mistake, which is you kind of think this is something that might happen to anyone. She quit.
Yeah, that's what horribly embarrassed her.
Yeah, that's what horribly embarrassed her. But part of me, as you know, Ben, I love laughing at the misfortune of others.
It's your favourite pastime.
It's a thing that really keeps me going.
Yeah.
But you're not really allowed to do that anymore. It's frowned upon. So this kind of feels like a little opportunity to enjoy that. So you can laugh at the misfortune of someone as long as they're bad.
Yes.
So one of my favourite videos of the last few years is there's a bunch of people at a zoo and they're winding up this chimpanzee. And eventually it just goes crackers.
Yeah.
And lobs a big poo into this crowd of people.
Yeah.
And it lands on the face of this old woman. And she turns to camera and she's got a big monkey poo on her nose.
Was she taunting the monkey?
Yeah, I'd like to think that maybe she'd, parked in a disabled spot or kicked a cat or something on
Probably
the way
kicked
in.
a child on the way in.
Yeah.
She's lucky she didn't get her face eaten off.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about chimpanzees. People of our age group, their first introduction to chimpanzees would have been the PG Tips adverts,
Yes.
where they used all the baby chimps who were super cute
They were sweet.
and adorable.
Yeah.
But actually, when you see a full-grown adult male, they're terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
They don't look cute; they look scary, and as you say, they'll bite your face off like that.
I think they have.
Every couple of years, an American lady has her face eaten by a chimp. I can say, is it controversial to think we'd be better off without just any chimpanzees at all? Why are we focusing on saving the horrible chimps? We should be throwing all our energies behind the gentle giant orangutans or gorillas who are like kind of badass, but only when they need to be, and quite chilled the rest of the time. We already have humans who are the absolute pits of the world.
We do.
We don't need another horrible great ape in the mix. That position is taken.
No. I think there are some nice chimps.
Baby ones who drink PG Tips, but after that, forget it.
I'm going to counter that argument and say we should only have chimps.
Well, this is the thing. I think if you had an ape free for all, I would be afraid that the chimps would win because they're so vicious.
Yeah, but you've seen Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, it's the chimpanzees who are like the ruling class, aren't they?
But they're really smart and they can talk. You could reason with them.
Here's this banana. Please don't eat my face.
There you go. Done.
New name for the podcast. Okay, and more toilet news. So a survey on behalf of World Toilet Day has found that adding an extra toilet to your house can add between 1.8 and 3.5% value to your property.
Wow. That's quite significant. I guess it depends where the toilet is, doesn't it?
Assuming it means it's plumbed in. You can't just
Drop a toilet in the middle of your lounge.
Yeah, I don't think that would be great.
No, I'd say that would decrease the value of your house.
I once lived in a bedsit in Streatham Hill, and the toilet was so close to the kitchen you could actually cook your breakfast whilst you were doing a number two.
That is quite disgusting. What was the best meal you cooked while you were sat on the toilet?
Beef Wellington.
I have a piece of news.
Okay.
It's not technically toilet news, but it does involve Steven Seagal.
Okay, well, we can make an exception for that.
Okay, so recently there was a YouTube interview with Stephen Hopkins, who directed Predator 2, and he said at one point Steven Seagal was considered for the lead role instead of Danny Glover. And he went round to Steven Seagal's house, and he was taken into this room. All the walls were covered with guns, and Seagal was very enthusiastic. And he told Stephen Hopkins that he wanted to play a CIA psychiatrist who was also a martial arts expert who carried a gun. That was his vision of the lead role. And then he said that Stephen Hopkins should come to his place in Santa Barbara because he had a grenade launching range and they could launch grenades together. But he didn't, and Seagal did not get the lead role.
I thought you were going to tell me a different Steven Seagal story, which is a bit more toilet-based, which is there's this legendary story about him, like obviously a horrible man.
Apparently.
I don't know what the film set it was, but he was saying like he couldn't get choked out. He was just saying it's impossible. You can't choke me out. I've kind of trained myself out of it. And there is this legendary stunt guy, and he was just like, I'll try. And so he choked out Steven Seagal, and sure enough, knocked him out. And then Steven Seagal did a poo in his pants.
Oh, that is great.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at Seagal movies for us to possibly watch, but there's not one I genuinely want to watch.
Oh, well, we'll see.
Righto.
Get on.
So, as we said at the top of the show, this is all about The Lost Boys, 1987 Joel Schumacher cult classic.
Yeah.
Now, Ben, how many sittings on the toilet did it take you to watch the entirety of this film?
So it would have been one sitting, but I got slightly distracted by a video of someone firing a machine gun and melting the suppressor at the end of their gun. So it would end up being 2 sittings, but I think I did pretty well.
Wow, okay, that's quite the compliment, I would say, that you managed to watch it in only 2. A few more for me. I watched this in 6.
I think that's fair.
Sittings, but a lot of that was me being hassled by my kids, so I could have happily watched it for longer. Before we start chatting about the film itself, we'll first do the big wee summer wee, where I record a long morning wee, and within the time it's taken me to do that wee, Ben has to describe the content of this film, which is clever and
So
also
clever.
childish at the same time. So Ben,
Yeah.
you'll be pleased to note that I drank a litre of yogurt drink.
Ooh, thick.
Yeah, a thick drink, and also two tins of Tango as well.
Oh, well done. What flavour?
Orange.
Okay,
Yeah.
classic.
So you've got 1:17.
Oh man, that's long.
Okay, your time starts now.
All right, so a couple of lads, Michael and his younger brother Sam, moved to this fairground beach town called Santa Carla with their recently divorced mum. Santa Carla is apparently the murder capital of the world. They move into their grandpa's house. Sam befriends some local guys known as the Frog Brothers, who claim to be vampire hunters, and Michael eyes up this local girl called Star, who hangs out with this gang of goth pirate bikers. Wanting to fit in and impress Star, Michael goes to the gang's abandoned hotel cave hideout place with them and drinks some blood from a bottle of wine. From a wine bottle, in some kind of initiation type ritual. Then he falls through some smoke and he wakes up as a half vampire, which he's not really on board with because he keeps floating and getting attacked by his dog. Plus he's not really up for the whole savage blood draining thing. So he goes with his brother Sam and the Frog Brothers to take out the head vampire called David, so he can cure himself and Star and her creepy child friend. That goes really badly, and they run away and spend the afternoon fortifying their grandpa's house, knowing the vampires will be on their way as soon as the sun goes down. The vampires attack, there's some awesome slushy vampire deaths, and eventually David is impaled on some reindeer horns. But it turns out he's not the head vampire. That's actually this guy that Michael's mum has been seeing. So he's about to kill everyone when Grandpa drives his truck through the house and impales the bad man on a massive wooden fence post. And then everything's fine. And that's the end.
Okay, well, I mean, 30-second overrun there, Ben. I feel like you're a little too casual there.
I'm focused on summarising the story, not working out how long time is in my mind. I can't count along as well, can I? Why don't you get off my back?
Okay, well, you can... Okay, fine. Let's go through suggestions for drinks next week to lengthen this time.
Just drink a litre of rum.
No problemo. So, Ben, what did you think about The Lost Boys?
Oh, man. I dig The Lost Boys, yo.
Mm-hmm.
Dig it. Got Michael, who is the main character, who I actually think is the least interesting character.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, Michael is surrounded by really interesting and great characters, but he's a standard angsty teenager, isn't he?
How old is he supposed to be?
I think he's probably meant to be about 17 in the movie.
He looks like he's about 30.
He was only in his early 20s when he made it.
Jeez Louise.
But he just wants to fit in, doesn't he? And he wants to impress Star.
Yeah, Jamie Gertz, who is the toilet paper hog in Seinfeld. And it's just like, I know who that lady is. Where do I know her from? She's a lady who can't spare a square.
That seems quite appropriate.
Yeah, she's actually she'd be a modern day hero in the COVID age. Yeah, I agree. I think he was kind of. It's weird because I've never seen this film before, which is the reason why I chose it. My oldest sister, had a little bit of a goth phase, so she really liked this film, and I wasn't allowed to watch it. I saw scraps, and I assumed that Corey Haim was the main character because he was the most interesting to me as a young man. So it was weird watching it, and it's primarily about Michael, who, as you said, is still not as interesting as anyone else.
No. And Corey Haim's character, Sam, seems a lot more self-assured, but at the same time, he's scared of horror comics, and his grandpa keeps putting those stuffed animals in his room. I liked his grandpa. He was a right old prankster.
Yeah, he was an interesting character.
He did that great prank when they first turned up at his house, where he pretended to be dead.
Yeah, it's not really a classic joke.
What's the best prank you've ever pulled?
At university, my housemate Alex was always playing pranks on me and hiding just doing annoying things. And one time we all went out for a big Sunday dinner, and someone had a horrible scrap of horrible beef left over. So I stole the beef and hid it in his coat. And he spent a whole winter complaining about the smell of beef that seemed to follow him around. I
think the best prank I pulled was when I lived with my friend, another Ben, and he hated the song "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" by Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
So I removed every single song from his iPod that he had at the time, hundreds of songs, and just left "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" on there. And on his hour-long train journey the next day, that's all he had to listen to. And he was really cross.
That's a great prank.
Yeah, I don't really do pranks, but when I do, they're about Cyndi Lauper. Anyway, but Michael, so he meets Star at a Tim Capello gig. And Tim Capello is an oiled man with a saxophone in one hand and a mic in the other.
That's the very tip of the iceberg, Ben. This guy is the craziest looking pop star I've seen in my life. So he has scraped back, oily hair into this horrible little ratty ponytail.
He
is unbelievably jacked. Like, he is enormous. And he is, like, shredded. He'd obviously been, like, dehydrating for, like, days before. And wearing trousers.
Yes, just trousers,
Yeah.
And he is giving it his all.
And it's such a weird mental image. And it kind of breaks your suspension of disbelief for a little bit. Because they go to this concert and they're supposed to be, like, really enjoying it. And you see this guy is just absolutely preposterous. Like, I could almost do an entire podcast about him.
I'd happily go and watch him. I think the film perpetuates this myth that gigs are kind of sexy and, you know, a great place to meet people. Like, I've never been to a gig like that before. On stage might be quite appealing, but off the stage, it's sweaty. I once saw a man miss his mouth. He was so drunk that he missed his mouth with his pint and poured it all over the floor. And then the band started playing a song he really liked. So he lunged towards the stage, slipped in the beer, and landed flat on his back. That's how sexy gigs are.
Yeah, but in fairness, I think that says more about the kind of music you like than about gigs generally.
No, I don't agree.
Because I can tell you, I went to see Keane in 2012, and nothing like that happened. It was mainly there's many people like looking at wallpaper swatches, talking about holidays, you know, in the south of France, that kind of thing.
Eating hummus,
swapping hummus recipes. Yeah.
Anyway, after the gig, they go to sort of carnival abandoned hotel den,
which is horrible,
but pretty cool. And David, the head vampire, is saying, "Eat the maggots, Michael. Eat the worms, Michael." He's one of those people that keeps repeating the name of the person they're talking to. That drives me insane.
I feel like there's like a limit. If someone does it once, I kind of quite like it because it shows me.
Do you, Eamonn?
You can get away with it if you just met someone.
Yeah, you can, Eamonn.
You can, yeah. I mean, you can keep on doing it. It turns you into like a.
It does. It's something that estate agents do quite a lot.
Yeah, so it's a very salesy. You can imagine it's something they've read in like a sales manual where it says like you must repeat the client's name.
Own the name.
I read a statistic that his name is said like over 100 times in the film.
Wow.
Because they do have like little montages where all like the Lost Boys are going, Michael.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah.
I guess David is trying to sell the idea of becoming a vampire to him, so that kind of makes sense.
So he's a good vampire salesman.
He's a very good vampire salesman. I think if he wasn't living in that carnival hotel, he could get a job in the city.
Well, the kind of thing that sort of annoys me about that scene where Dave is trying to get him to drink the blood is he says, have this rice, and it turns into maggots. And he says, eat these noodles, and it turns into worms.
Michael.
And he says, drink this wine. And then Star goes, oh no, don't do that, it's blood.
Yeah.
And then Michael goes, of course it's not blood, you idiot. It's like, but you just saw rice turn into maggots. Like, they could really, that's what it could happen.
What about the Frog Brothers?
Yeah, I thought they were really cool. It made me feel a little bit sad for Corey Feldman because he is clearly a very good actor. And Corey Haim as well, obviously. They're both really funny. Like, they obviously like have great comic timing because they both have some really good lines that they sell really well. Corey Feldman almost steals the film for me. I think he's so funny.
He's brilliant.
I like the fact he's running a comic book store at the age of like 14 or whatever it is that he is.
Do you remember in Plymouth there was a comic shop called Purple Haze?
Of course, yeah.
That was great. I used to love it there.
I only ever used to go in it with you.
Yeah, of course.
And it smelt lonely.
Oh, I loved it because you couldn't get American comics in Plymouth much.
Yeah.
I'd never seen them before until I went to Purple Haze, and they had all sorts.
What's the most desirable comic you have?
I don't really have many anymore. I think I had a Wolverine #1.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I don't think it was worth that much, but it was pretty cool.
Sounds impressive.
And yeah, I had some good ones, but it's quite easy to spend a lot of money on comics.
Yeah.
I had to nip that in the bud.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because, like, obviously the Marvel Cinematic Universe has made comic books super cool.
Yeah.
But for a long time, they really were quite sort of nerdy. They're kind of like for lamos.
Yeah, that's right. Complete lamos, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like me. So originally, Richard Donner was attached to this film.
Yeah.
And the script was an original script. The idea was that Peter Pan was a vampire.
Okay.
And then Richard Donner went and he was going to go and direct Lethal Weapon, so Joel Schumacher took over. And I think the kids in the script were much, much younger. And then he turned it into this darker, more adult film. And you've got some great people working on it. So Michael Chapman, who's the director of photography for Raging Bull and Taxi Driver.
Wow.
I think that opening scene where you see all the residents of Santa Carla really kind of grounds it, makes it feel like a real place.
Yeah.
Because it's quite a fantastical place. You know, you have the Carnival Hotel and you have the weird smoky bridge, but because you've seen the streets beforehand, I think that helps. And also a guy called Bo
Jangles?
Not Bojangles, Bo Welch, who was the production designer. So he worked on a lot of Tim Burton films where he used that same sort of carnival kind of thing. But I love what he did with that hotel. I know you thought it looked like a terrible place to be, but I thought it was a really cool kind of den.
Yeah.
And then you've got Greg Canham, who did the makeup, which I thought was fantastic. So The Lost Boys was one of the first films to kind of transform vampires. Before that, they'd been these men with fangs or ladies with fangs. But this, they were monsters. And I think a guy called Stephen Johnson, who's another famous makeup artist, he worked on Ghostbusters and all sorts of other things. He had a go at some of the makeup, but it was a lot more monstrous. Whereas Greg Canham did this thing where he put little pieces on their cheeks and their forehead. And the whole point was that the eyes, the lenses, became a focal point of the makeup, which I thought looked really effective.
I agree with everything you said apart from the makeup, which I thought looked like a big pile of trash.
Really? I'm surprised.
I'm not into vampire films at all. I think by and large they're just not for me.
Okay.
But one thing I've noticed about loads of the vampire films I've seen is how bad the makeup is, and how they often do that thing where they give them big cheekbones and foreheads.
Well, this is where it all began.
Well, then I've got a bone to pick then with Greg Cannon.
You got a cheekbone to pick with him.
Yeah, because it doesn't make me focus on the eyes. It makes me focus in on their bony foreheads and cheeks. And it's like I was looking at. So I would say one of the best ever sort of like makeup jobs in a serious film is like the Elephant Man, which I think is like early 80s anyway, and obviously like John Hurt you can't tell it's him. It's absolutely phenomenal, so compelling and believable. So what's their excuse? Why can't if they can make John Hurt look like the Elephant Man, why can't these guys make a couple of teenagers look like vampires?
Well, I think that the thinking behind it was that they didn't want to make them look like monsters. They wanted to keep, you've got all these very attractive teenage actors and they wanted them to look sexy, I suppose, as vampires rather than horrible beasts. So that's why you get this slightly exaggerated facial features. I thought it looked great. You didn't.
I think maybe you're right. I think if that was the first time that they did that, I'm sure it was quite captivating. But maybe because it's become so well done now, like I think that's how they used to do it in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV series, wasn't it?
Well, that's interesting. You having come at that, you've seen all this other stuff that was derivative, I suppose. But now the original doesn't hold up for you. It's quite sad.
Yeah, that happens quite a lot. That happened with John Carter of Mars, because apparently it was like this incredible, at the time, it was like this incredible tale and really inventive, and no one had heard of anything like it. But obviously that was written 100 and something years ago. In the interim, 1 billion sci-fi films have been made. So when I went to see that in the pictures, I was really disappointed because it seemed really derivative. But the irony is that inspired a lot of the films that came after it.
I mean, how did you feel about the other effects towards the end? I was a really big fan of the very sloppy, gungy deaths that every vampire had. Every death was spectacular.
I loved the deaths. I think they're really creative. Each vampire seemed to have its own unique death, which I thought was great. And you're right.
Yeah.
I like the guy.
What was your favourite?
The guy who gets shot into a stereo and his head blows up.
That's brilliant.
It's just incredible. What about you?
So that was a puppet they built.
Yeah.
That set on fire. They built a few other puppets. So when David hits the reindeers, they built a full-size David.
Yeah.
But they shot it, and then they just used the close-ups. They didn't actually use the puppets they've made. I think my favourite is the bath full of holy water and garlic.
Yeah.
And the guy just melts. It's when he dips in initially, shakes a bit.
Yeah.
And then he pops out, and he's all...
Yeah.
Yeah, he's all melting, and then the blood just pours out of the... taps. It's just brilliant. I saw It 2 recently.
Oh, yeah.
Every single scare, like the setup of the scares was really effective.
Mm-hmm.
But every one was paid off with a CGI monster. And it just looked terrible. It was not scary at all. And I think overusing CGI in horror, it really takes you out of the film.
Yeah.
You're not a big horror man, are you?
No, I don't want to be scared.
Yeah, I do want to be scared, but
Yeah.
it's not happening.
I really like The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Because it's creepy as hell.
So you like the scariest film, but you don't want to be scared.
I was brought up a Catholic, so I'm interested in it in particular from that point of view. And also, they did that thing where they drop in flash frames of scary images. Do you remember?
Yes, they do. Absolutely terrifying images.
There's one that... Can you remember what they are?
The white demon face.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
There's the mother as well. He has a vision of his mother standing by a subway. And then there's that part where he sees her on the bed, all in white. Really unsettling.
There's one... I think the one that freaked me out the most was one of your mum that's in there.
I don't remember that bit.
Even though she would have been very young when the film was released.
Yeah.
For the anniversary edition, William Friedkin contacted your mum and said, I need a picture of someone who looks scary. Do you mind if I use your face? Your mum very happily obliged.
Yeah.
And weirdly, he said you didn't even get changed into like a scary costume. She was just wearing like a work suit. And it was a picture. In fact, it was the picture she used on her staff ID. William Friedkin said, that's fine. Just send me that. One thing I'm interested in is vampires and sexiness. I did obviously like the merest amount of research on that before we started talking. But it does seem like there's this association historically between vampires having this kind of sexy element, alluring element to them.
Yeah. Well, they come at night, don't they? They drink blood from a sensitive area.
It's interesting because in so many films you see people getting bitten on the neck and their response is sexual. Like the person who's being bitten is really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Whereas you'd think the response would be to go, ow!
Get off my neck!
That really hurts!
I think I'm bleeding.
Why, look, there's 2 holes! Thanks a bunch!
I think it's got on my shirt.
I actually don't want to watch Ratatouille anymore. Can you just go?
Yeah.
But this film in particular seemed to kind of take that to another level because, as you said, this was originally going to be a Richard Donner joint.
Much like The Goonies, so more of a kids' movie.
Yeah, that was the MO. It was like The Goonies but with vampires, which I think I probably would have enjoyed more if I'm being completely honest. But this got sort of made all sort of sexy. I mean, obviously you've got Tim Capello, the sexiest saxophonist there's ever been.
Oh, very much so.
And all the Lost Boys.
I mean, I thought the deaths are pretty savage. When they get going, they really do rip people to pieces.
This is what I think part of my issue with it is that, and I know they're trying to make the vampires look really appealing, but I think you also need to work to show them to be evil. And all the vampire attacks you see, I think there's only one image that I found quite shocking, which is they attack a bunch of people on a beach party, and Kiefer Sutherland bites one of them on the head.
Yeah, he bites the back of his head.
Side note, it's a terrible place to bite someone if you want to drink blood. It's like the hardest bit.
It's like a kind of jaguar skull bite, isn't it? Bang!
Is that what you thought it was?
Yeah. Well, apparently that was much worse. He actually ate the back of his head, but they cut it.
Ugh.
So you just see the blood spraying.
Oh, okay. But I think it needed more of that to kind of ramp up the scariness, because you see them attack people before that, but it's always from quite a cheesy point of view shot where you see like the bird's eye view sort of zooming down onto the security guard at the beginning or the necking couple in the car, and they sort of look up at the camera and go, vampires! They shout vampires for some reason all the time.
We're going to disagree again here though, because I really like that. I think they did that because the budget was cut. Mm-hmm. I think they were planning to show a lot of flying vampires, and instead they did this kind of Evil Dead roving camera thing, which I thought was brilliant, but clearly didn't work for you.
Well, no, because you can't show the terror that way if it's point of view. You can see the scared people's faces, but you need to kind of see them being attacked. And what you saw every time was you'd sort of see them inside the car or trying to get into the car, whatever. They'd look up and go, "Oh no, a vampire!" And then they'd fly up. Yeah, it was stupid.
Well, I feel like it was like like the whole Jaws thing. You don't see the shark until towards the end. You see glimpses, you see what happens to the people. But then you get to see this horrible scene of savagery when the vampires do attack. It's pretty hardcore.
Ben, I'm going to have to stop you there. What you do see in Jaws, though, is when the shark attacks the poor boy on the beach, is you see like some craziness off in the background, and then everyone goes crazy. Everyone comes out of the sea, and then you see a bloody inflatable thing wash up on the beach with a big bite mark on it.
This is true.
So that gives you the idea of the ferocity of the attack.
Yeah, it's valid. You do see, the jerking bodies, and it's pretty heavy. That's true. I see what you're saying.
Thank you.
But I do enjoy the flying camera.
No, you have to disown that now and say on the record that it's stupid.
Oh, right.
That's how it works.
Okay. I'm not going to do that.
No. We'll fix that in post.
Yeah, you're going to add, I think it's really stupid. I'm Ben.
That is the voice I use for you as well. Oh, horror's brilliant, and the cheesy old-fashioned camera angles they use is brilliant, and everything this film is brilliant. The end. What did you think about the twist that David's not the head vampire and that Richie Rich's dad is?
I enjoyed it. I liked when the mum got chased by the hounds of hell. That was quite scary.
That was good, yeah.
He's got quite a presence. But yeah, we don't find out an awful lot about what's he called.
Max. I actually felt like he was his reason, or his motivation was quite good, which was he was actually interested in their mum. He wanted to get Sam and Michael on first, so then she would willingly become a vampire. So he could basically create a kind of like quasi-family with her in the mother role. So at least it was a good motivation. You understood why he was doing that and why all this was happening.
And I think his boys had lost their way, hadn't they? These adolescent vampires he was unable to control. So he was looking for a new family.
But I tell you what, like, it's such a good twist. But then his transformation, I think, is the worst of them all. Because he looks ludicrous when he becomes a vampire.
Yeah.
Like, he's not scary at all.
They said it was very difficult to make him look scary.
Got such a cheerful face.
So yeah, his is the most excessive, isn't it? But I know they did some additional makeup which had his skin burning off and light would glint off. It almost looked like his skin was cracking. It looked really cool, but they didn't use it. Instead, they just blew him up.
I really took me out at the moment because I didn't see that coming. And then when he becomes a vampire, he just looks stupid. It's like the kind of, if I was given like an afternoon to make someone look like a vampire, that's what I would make someone look like.
Why don't you take an afternoon to make someone look like a vampire?
All right, I will.
All right, go on then.
Okay, I'll see you in an afternoon's time.
Or what you could just do is go and visit your mum and take a picture.
Hooray!
I'm not going to make jokes about your mum. That's your thing. I think your mum's lovely.
Yeah, get your own thing. I'm not claiming, by the way, to invent slagging off someone's mum. I can't claim that as my own.
No, you can't.
Do you know who came up with it?
Who?
Your mum.
I actually think, you know what? Lucy, the mum in this film, actually did remind me of your mum because she's just a nice lady.
She just feels little bit. I kind of felt. I agree. She is a nice lady. I kind of felt though that she's not really present. Like she has a conversation with Michael at one point. And it's just like, are we still friends? It's just like, well,
yeah,
he's disappearing off the whole time. Why are you not? It's kind of your job.
She had to get a job and stuff.
How would you stop your children from being seduced by vampires?
Well, I think initially I'd teach them about the dangers of vampires. Yeah. And, in the end, I'd have to let them make their own decision. Yeah,
I think that's wise, It's the same thing as like smoking. I don't want you to do it, but if you decide to become a vampire, I can't stop you.
I have a confession to make, actually. Oh, yeah. You've reminded me of something. When I was 10 years old, I saw this film and The Monster Squad and actually had 2 wooden stakes that I used to keep under my bed.
Nice.
Yeah, because I really wanted vampires to be real. So I guess I'd tell my sons, make some stakes and, see what happens.
So, Ben, this is the time where we decide whether we're going to flush it or fish it out.
What does that mean?
Well, flush it, like you'd flush away a nasty poo you never want to see again.
Ugh.
Or fish it out, a lovely poo that you think is delightful and want to keep as a trophy?
Oh, terrific. Well, I would definitely fish this one out double quick. I love it. I think it's one of the all-time great vampire movies. I think because I saw it when I was a young man, it definitely made an impact on me. And yeah, I'd fish it out.
Yeah.
And I'd stick it right in the middle of the carpet in the lounge. What about you? Don't hurt my feelings.
I think I probably would fish it out.
Good.
Just like, I don't think it's classic. I think if, like you, I'd seen it when I was younger, I'd probably have a lot more love for it.
Yeah.
But I think coming at it from, with contemporary film going opinions, it feels way too short. I'd like the vampires to feel scary and more threatening.
Yeah.
And see what the horrible things they do, as well as them being seductive. And none of the stupid makeup that makes them look like birds.
Yeah, we're not going to agree on this.
No.
But it's hard for me to know how I'd view it now.
You'd think it would stink up the joint. You wouldn't be able to flush it quickly enough.
You fished it out.
That was only because I didn't want to hurt your feelings.
Oh, that's sweet.
I'd fish it out and then I'd flush it in the downstairs toilet when you weren't looking.
You'd fish it out, take a picture of it, and then show it to me.
I'd take a picture of me with my arm around it
Yeah.
and a thumbs up.
Or would you be like
then-
a boxer with your fist?
I love that. I thought that'd be a great sketch about a boxer getting married. And just infuriating the photographer, because every single photo, he's got his fist underneath his bride's chin, because they can't not take photos like that. Anytime you see a boxer getting photographed, he's always doing that.
I'm pretty sure that is every boxer's wedding.
Yeah. Okay, so there's only one thing left to do, which is to decide the film we're going to watch next time. The way we do that is a little competition. This week we're listing our top 5 vampire films.
Yeah.
And we have to guess what each other has picked, and whoever has the most correct guesses gets to choose the film for next time.
That's right. So we're going to get 3 guesses each. Are we going to say that duplicate choices must be declared?
Yes. So if I have one on my list and I think you've got it, and I say that, I need to say I have that too.
Perfect. Now, the winner gets to choose the next week's film. What happens to the loser?
We thought a fitting forfeit for the person who spent an hour and a half watching a film on the toilet all week would be to force that person to sleep in a toilet for a whole night.
There is such a thing as too much time on the toilet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the loser has to spend the night in there.
In the toilet. Yes. So you can bring in a pillow
Okay.
and a duvet.
Okay.
And you have to stay in there for a maximum of 6 hours.
Oh my God. Okay. Brilliant.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's all to play for, isn't it?
It certainly is, my friend.
All right. Who's going first?
I will go first.
Oh, will you? You're such a gentleman.
My first guess is going to be Near Dark.
No. I love it, but it's not on my list. My first choice for you is going to be Blade 2.
Correct.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, I was going to put down Blade 1, but I think Blade 2 is better.
I know you like Blade
And
2.
I'll tell you why I like it, and this goes back to what we were talking about with the sexiness vampires. Guillermo del Toro was saying he wanted to strip out all that sexiness out of the vampires and make them all about just like drinking the blood in the most horrifying way.
He did that.
Which is why their faces open in two, basically, like mandibles.
Yeah.
It's really horrible.
It's great.
I thought that was a really, really smart move because it makes you disgusted and like really, really scared of those vampires.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a duplicate. This is one I have on my list. I'm going to say Dusk Till Dawn.
No.
What?
This was a really hard list to do.
You're full of it, mate.
From Dusk Till Dawn is a film that, when I saw it, I did feel like it was the greatest film I'd ever seen. But I don't know if it holds up.
For a 14, 15-year-old in the mid-90s, fantastic. I mean, that guy has like a dick gun, for Christ's sake. It's just stupid.
Yeah, I would have... it would have been number 6. Okay. All right. This will be a duplicate if it is on your list. Let the right one in.
No, I've never seen it. I know it's like...
Oh, okay.
I know it's supposed to be like a really, really good vampire film, but this was actually really hard for me
It
because
is.
I don't like vampire films. So I've only seen
That's
like
tricky then.
6.
I mean, yeah, Let the Right One In is another brilliant coming of age story. Swedish, very cold. Yeah, you should see that. I think you would like that vampire film.
Okay.
It's just a great movie.
I do like Swedish things.
I know. You love the Swedish.
I do love the Swedes. Okay. This is a duplicate. I'm going to say 30 Days of Night.
No, but I was going to guess that for you.
Yeah, right.
I was. They are some savage vampires, aren't they?
They're really scary, and they look terrifying. They have like black eyes, the teeth, and the complexion. Yeah, that's all you need. I think it's really difficult to think of something as scary if it's also like romancing you.
Yes.
Like, you're not going to be scared of someone if they're buying you a steak dinner.
Yeah, but if they're going to buy you a steak dinner and then slit your throat at the end of the evening, I think you could be scared of them then.
If they told me they were going to do that, then yes.
You ever been on a date like that?
I did go on a date once with a girl who fell asleep. That was really a low point. That's kind of like the reverse of a vampire. She was really nervous to begin with, and twice asked me who my favourite band was. And then we sat down in a noisy bar, and she fell asleep because we couldn't think of anything to talk about. So she just slowly went to sleep.
And how long have you been married for?
Very good. Okay, so you've already won.
Okay, well, the success rate was low, but I have won. So, Eamonn, you are going to spend a night in the toilet. God. I really enjoyed saying that. What were your choices then? Go through your top 5.
I had Blade 2, 30 Days of Night, Dusk Till Dawn, Interview with a Vampire, and John Carpenter's Vampires, which has got James Woods in it, and I don't think it's very good.
No.
But it's one of the only few vampire films I can remember watching.
Okay. Yeah, it's not very good.
So what were yours?
Nosferatu, the creepy German film from 1922, which is like the original vampire movie. Fright Night, which is another vampire film that came out in the 80s, and also used that transformation makeup. Let the Right One In. Oh, Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman, which is a very messy film, but the makeup I love.
Old Gary Oldman in that is great.
And it's also Greg Canham who did the makeup for The Lost Boys.
When you go marry him, you love him so much.
I might. And finally, an Iranian vampire film called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Midnight, which is a black and white, very vibey...
A black and white Iranian film. How am I supposed to guess that?
It's a pretty famous vampire film.
I thought Nosferatu was bad. That is the most pretentious thing I've ever heard.
If you like vampire films, Eamonn, it wouldn't be pretentious.
Okay, well, maybe the listener can contact us via social medias and say who's in the right.
Yeah.
Is Ben a pretentious douche or a well-versed vampire connoisseur?
Let's see what they say. And I bet if they're from Cornwall, they'll agree with me.
Oh yeah, burn that bridge.
Or if they like chimps.
Yeah.
Good. So, the movie we're watching next time is 1992's Steven Seagal classic, Under Siege. Which, funnily enough, you mentioned earlier on.
Yeah. I remember a few things about... I remember a naked lady popping out of a big cake. Yeah. Tommy Lee Jones hamming it up.
Yeah.
And Steven Seagal setting a precedent for his entire career whereby he never loses a fight, nor is threatened in any way in a fight.
No.
Yeah.
Steven Seagal does not lose.
Yeah.
He does poo his pants if he gets choked out, though.
Well, I mean, that'll be the losing forfeit for the person who loses next week's challenge, is they have to poo their pants.
Oh my. Yeah, I hope not.
Well, I look forward to watching that.
I think you're going to dig it. All right, well, thank you for listening again. Hope you've enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
Check us out on the social.
And if you meet a Cornishman, give him one of these from me. You couldn't see what I was doing, but it's rude.
Were you miming a chimp?
Yeah, I was miming a chimp biting someone's face. If you meet a Cornishman, bite his face.
I'd like to know how many chimps there are in Cornwall.
I bet there's a chimp sanctuary somewhere in Cornwall.
Yeah.
That place would be the pits of the world.
Thanks for that, Eamonn. Now all that's left is for you to sign us off.
Keep flushing.
Bye-bye.
Bye.